So what's up, everyone? 1212. Welcome to another episode of Sneaks, Rhymes, and Life. And can't believe how we're going to be honored today with one of my favorite MCs and an unbelievable artist when it comes to the hip hop impact of the '90s. So I'll just call him OC the Great because I think he's even referenced himself on Rhymes today. But Omar, otherwise known as the legendary Brooklyn Queens artist OC. So welcome to Sneaks, Rhymes, and Life. We're so happy to have you. So what's good? What's popping?
What's going on, Al? Everything's good, man. No complaints for the moment.
All right, all right. So if we just kind of get into it, appreciate your time today and just being able to hear you talk. So
Likewise, man.
And just share again. I've been a big fan for a long time. I can't start the cast without shouting out my friend Nick. I remember we went to a concert of yours back here in Toronto back in 2008. You did with all of the DITC guys, and it was such an amazing show. You and Diamond, and I think you
I
had
think Large Professor was here too.
yeah, yeah.
At that show.
That
Yeah.
was the same show. You had AG toured up that night, and
Yeah.
it was good times. So maybe you can
But
kind of share.
listen though,
Yeah, go for it.
that wasn't the I did a show back in, I can't even remember the date, man, but I did a show in a basement out there in a spot this was probably one of my best shows. It was crammed in there, but
Was that the show? I think the show with oh, were you with Souls of Mischief in that show?
nah, that was
That's
another
another
show. That
one.
was
That's another one.
'05.
Yeah. Okay.
That was '05. But prior to that, I did I believe it was Toronto by myself, but it
Yeah.
was in a spot in a downstairs spot. Damn, I can't remember the name of this spot. But yo, so many people crammed into the spot to see me, man. Like the energy was lit. I'm gonna get the name and probably just send it to you,
All right.
and maybe you'll remember. But that was probably one of my best shows ever out there because it was like we was
So
face to
close.
face like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And people, it was magnetic like that. That's why I'm thinking about it. You bringing the shows up. I'm like, nah,
Yeah.
that was probably my illest show out there because the people was just right there, and you either gonna sink or swim. You know what I'm saying?
Believe that.
And it was just crazy. But I didn't mean to cut you off though.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So, again, you've been on the scene for literally like 30 years, and I know you were working on, you had early connections with MC Search, and we got to 1994 and one of the craziest hip hop years in terms of releases. But maybe you
Right.
can share your early influences and how you kind of got into the game.
Well, I was born in Brooklyn, raised in Brooklyn a little bit, as well as Queens, but Bushwick was mainly my tipping point for hip hop. Like I seen the Park Jam, you know what I'm saying? I was raised around the Park Jam. I was raised in the Park Jam, block parties and things of that nature. I seen guys like Divine Sounds when I was a kid, in Bed-Stuy, you know what I'm saying? Bring the equipment out in the park and the speakers towering in the air. So that was my initial initiation into the game, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? And then moving out to Jamaica, Queens, and seeing the same thing. So this was a normality, not just for me, but for people in New York in general.
Really on that. So I think the very first time I heard you was on the
Mhm.
legendary track with Organized Confusion, Fudge Pudge, and it's just
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
you came in and just fired off rap cadence. It was incredible. So
yeah.
I know that you go way back with these guys, but how did
Right.
that song kind of come to be?
I mean, those are my mentors right there to this day. Like Pharaoh and Prince basically schooled me. I was behind the scenes with them for their whole ride. And me and a few other guys. And um they just showed me the ropes without actually, you know, doing the pen work for me. You know what I'm saying? They told me to be original. You know, Prince was more vocal about that. He would tell me not to sound like them. You know what I'm saying? As I was coming up and you know, just find my own voice. And I didn't understand that at the time. You know what I'm saying? And until 91, you know, and they put me on the spot with that song. Actually, you know, the album was finished, but they just actually, you know, was like, yo, we got another record we're gonna put on the album, and you know, this is your time to shine. And it was like, wow, like I had to write my verse right there. It had to be quick. Like I said, they had to turn the album in that day or that the next day, and the rest is history.
Wow. So again, like that's just to hear that's the story, that you wrote it
Right.
there on the spot, that it wasn't even planned, that and you just wrote it and it sounded like that, but then
Mm.
it's just mind blowing that that's how it went down. But then you
Yeah.
fast forward, and then
Yeah.
I know it took years for you to then, after such an amazing verse, I've heard guys on in the source unsigned hype,
Mm-hmm.
and like they signed like immediately, but that's an incredible verse. But it took like until 94 until your album came out, Word Life. So like
Yeah.
what was the pieces that happened in that time between Fudge Pudge and then Word Life?
Well, basically, I went on the very first Source tour with them. You know what I'm saying? The Source tour consisted of, you know, Organized Confusion, of course, Bismarck, Roxanne Shante. It was a group, Low Bastards. Y'all know him, or one half of them, y'all know as Doggy Diamonds. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? Lord Finesse, you know, a then unknown Buck Wild. I was DJing for Lord Finesse, who was part of my you know, DITC alumni. Um, Almighty RSO, which is Ray Benzino, and MC Search. Search was doing his solo project at the time. And just to fast forward, you know, the tour was over. Search had a production company, Searchlight Music. He had a kid that was signed to him already. That was, you know, who we know today is Nas. You know what I'm saying? And he figured out I wasn't the third member of Organized Confusion, and he was like, "Yo, you know, what are you doing?" And that's all she wrote from there. But it took me 3 years, man. I was ready to give up. I'm gonna be straight up with you, like, you know, I was telling him, you know, at the end of the day, like, if this doesn't work after whatever moves you're gonna make, you know, I'm hanging it up. I'm not even pursuing this any further. And you know, it was Search, man. It was Search who stayed on top of me.
Oh my gosh, like and to hear that you almost gave up, that would have been a hip hop tragedy. But again, I'm sure that there's so many people that get to
Yeah,
that point that you just can't find your break, or you can't find, you know, the pieces to make it work. So you,
right,
of all the names you mentioned, and it's so, when you kind of, I don't want to fast forward this story because this story is so good, but
right.
you talk about Buckwild, and for
Hmm.
the stuff that Buckwild has done in his career, when you go look at the catalog, it
Yeah.
is unbelievable. So like, how did you like, and you see that, from Word Life to Jewels to Bon Appetit, etc. Like, you guys have such an amazing connection. You've worked with you're literally almost your whole career. How
Right.
how did you guys connect so well on Word Life?
Like I said, Finesse was on the Source tour, and he had Buck Wild DJing on him for some dates. And me and Buck just clicked. Actually, a record came out around that time by the name of these cats, Pete Rock and CL Smooth, When They Reminisce. And I would play that song over and over and over on the bus till people was like, come on, man, enough already. But, you know, that's where me and Buck clicked up at. You know, we had a connection from there. I can't explain how, but I know after we came off the tour, you know what I'm saying? You know, he was living up in the Bronx at that time. And I went uptown. We started doing a couple of demo records, and you know, the stuff you hear on World Life, today, and you know, the debut is what some of the stuff we demo, you know what I'm saying? Ozone and Point of Views and things of that nature. And we just had a chemistry, an unwritten chemistry, like we was rocking with each other from day one. That's how I felt, you know, and it's still like that. Like we can go in at any given moment and just do music.
Wow, that's totally amazing. So I don't think we can talk about Word Life without talking about the hip hop masterpiece Time's Up. And you know, we know how many times that song has been sampled. We know it's been used in movies and so many things. So what, you know, you obviously created a demo. I never heard the demo, but what was your thought process on that album coming to be?
Put
Or
out
that
the
track?
best.
Yeah.
Well, that track was actually a Pharaoh track. You know, it was something that was presented to him by a cat named Prestige. He did Point of Views on my album, and later on he became one of the hitmen for Bad Boy. But he was a Pharaoh Monch stand, man. I ain't even gonna front. Like, I hope he sees this and take this, you know, in good. He was a stand. Like, he wouldn't bring nothing to nobody else but Monch. And he brought that sample over and played it. And right off top, I was just mesmerized by it, you know. And I asked Monch, did he want the track? And, you know, did he listen to the track? And he was like, nah, not yet. And he said that for like a month, until I just basically took the CD, took it home. And you know, in that process, in the middle of that process, I believe I was almost finishing up my deal or about to sign my deal, or one or the other. Make a long story short, I was writing the record for like 6 months prior to me signing the contract. So um it took me a while because it was a quirky beat, but it was just something special about it. And you know, that was the last joint I liked on the album. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it was the first one that I've heard, you know, that I figured would make the album. But I did not like the track after I was done with it. Um, it's probably one of the few tracks that maybe started the two verse thing, you know, in hip hop, or I was one of the people who started that by accident. Um, you know, the hook, everything to me in my mind was wrong about the record. But it took Search, it took March, it took Prince, it took Finesse, it took Buck to tell me, yo, you bugging out. And you know, finally Search just told me one day, yo, man, the stuff that we usually don't like be the ones that usually turn out to be a grand slam for us. And I just trust his judgment because of his track record and let it fly. You know what I'm saying? And we added the scratches, of course. Rock Raider came in and did the scratches for that. And you know, Slick Rick is probably one of my, if not my favorite artists. And you know, I figured out what I was gonna scratch in there, and the rest is history.
Yeah. Wow. Totally unbelievable. Like, again, you know, the track still resonates to this day when we talk about purity of hip hop, and like that's what emceeing should sound like. So
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, back then, we made music because we loved it. Like,
yeah.
you didn't think about the money. You didn't think of, our thing was, we hope people dig us. And, you know, it wasn't about a monetary thing. You know what I'm saying? It was all about the music. And, you know, people either gonna love it or they gonna hate it.
Yep. Exactly.
That's how it was.
Like, yeah, like one of the quotables in the song is just I'd rather be broke than have a whole lot of respect, right? So
Yeah, I didn't, in a rhetorical way though.
yeah,
Like,
I know you don't want
you
to be
know,
broke.
right.
Right.
And you know, people literally took that, you know, it's crazy, man. The stories I have, like, just running into people who supported the record, and whatever fans you want to call them. And yo, people would be mad at me sometimes because I would walk in a place with gold teeth and, you know, jewelry on, and people would be like, yo, man, like, what is that? Like, and it's like, you know, I'm not gonna stand there and explain it to him, but it's like, man, y'all taking this too literally, man. Like, that's
Yeah.
not what I meant. And you know, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, I can imagine just some of the encounters you've gone through. So fast forward, obviously, then
Mhm.
a lot of buzz, and there's multiple albums that, again, as I mentioned earlier, there was Ready to Die, there was Illmatic. We're coming off,
Wu-Tang
Midnight
was already killing it.
Yeah,
Like,
Wu-Tang, Midnight Marauders. We're on the verge of Method Man's album, and
and we ain't even talking about West Coast. Like, you
yeah,
had so many heavy
yeah,
hitters, man.
you
Like,
were Snoop was still smashing it. People are
yeah,
still
man.
playing The
Q,
Chronic.
everybody.
So everything's popping, and here comes your album, and like
Tupac, everybody.
everybody was popping. So like,
Yeah.
what was the, I guess, like, how did you feel after you kind of got your album out? Like, what was the, like, how did you feel that you stacked up against that? Like, did you get a lot of street respect? Like,
Nah, for me, I always tell people, it was a slow burn for me. It took me at least 10 years for people to say, I get it now. Like, I get him. Because just you naming all those people, the competition was so
heavy,
stacked up
heavy.
against me. It was super heavy, man. But I didn't think, I just thought about it as me being a fan of the music, me picking up a Wu album, me picking up a Cube album. This was my natural competition, but it also inspired us. It inspired us to make albums, picking up Midnight Marauders, and you know, like these things didn't just come out and it was day and night. Like, these are things that resonated with all of us. You know what I'm saying? East to west, south, whatever. And it just made you want to be a better artist. Like, you ain't want to put out no BS. So
No.
my thing was, I didn't think about it at that moment, but now mentioning it and talking to you and a few other people about it today, when you actually think about it, yo, Run DMC still was killing it. Down with the King was out. Like,
That was a
Naughty
banger.
by Nature,
Yeah.
like these guys was killing it. You know what I'm saying? And the funny thing is, when I would run into these people, it wasn't a vibe like I'm platinum and I sold more records than you, and everybody knew everybody's record. That was the difference, man. It didn't matter who you was. Snoop knew who I was. I knew who Snoop was. Cube knew who I was. I knew who he was. Didn't matter how many records we sold. If your joint was dope, that's what mattered. That's all that mattered.
Mhm. So again, it's a totally unbelievable record, and then, but it was like 4 years later is when your next album came out, Jewels. So,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit different because Buckwild was still, riding shotgun with you, but
Mm-hmm.
DJ Premier was part of it. Obviously, the DITC impact, because now you're working with Big L. Freddie Fox
Mm-hmm.
was on that album.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously,
Beat Minus,
Beat Miners was heavy, and obviously all the stuff they had done with
Boot Camp.
Boot
Yeah.
Camp, and
Yeah.
then obviously then
Yeah.
your other DITC mates. I think Showbiz did a track and Finesse
Joe
did a
did,
track.
OG, Finesse, Buck, of course. Yo, but that was normal for us.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like, to be in D&D and see MOP in another room and Beat Miners in another room and Hove telling me to come in and do a verse for his joint in another, it was normality. Like, to
yeah.
see Big not like, it was normal. That was normal routine for us. Like, so, I didn't think about it. None of us did. We didn't think about it in that vein, in that light. We just thought, the next album got to be dope. This is who I wanted. This is who I'm around most of the time, and um, these are the guys that's gonna make that dream come alive. And
Yeah.
that's just what happened.
So how did you feel about the finished product of Jewels, the second album, in comparison to your first one? Do you feel it's different evolution. Like it's a different feeling album, but I would almost, and to a certain extent, compare how Illmatic sounds different than it was written. Like I find that those two albums, amazing in their own right, have a very unique sound to each one of them. Maybe you give us your perspective on that.
Growth. Like you're not the same person in 94 as opposed to the person you become in 95 and 96, even the day after, you know. That's how I could sum it up. Like, you know, people, how can I put it? Especially people who are music enthusiasts of whoever they like, they tend to try to box you in sometimes and sort of repeat the same formula. They want you to repeat the same formula that they like. But it's like, yo, you have to understand I'm being an artist. Like, I always tell people I haven't been a rapper since I signed the deal. You know what I'm saying? I became an artist after doing it professionally. And the goal is to try to do it as long as possible, try to put out the best product as possible, and try to be not the most truthful, so to speak, but just something that people gonna gravitate towards. And you know, Jewels was a coming out party for me. At the same time, it was something that I, you know, it was a learning experience I had from Word Life. So I knew a lot more than what I did the first time doing it on my sophomore album. So now I know what I want. I know what I hear. You know, everything that I'm writing is because I'm either going through it or it's people in front of me, or I might hear somebody talking and I'm ear hustling and I get an idea from that, you know, just everyday life. And I didn't think about it back then, but I say that a lot now. Everything that I've put down, you know, on wax is my life force, but it's not just me, it's everything and everyone around me as well. You know what I'm saying? So the music translates what the time is. 94 was 94. 97 was a whole different, I was probably feeling myself a little bit too. You know, I made a record called
Rightfully
My
so.
World.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, but I understand that narrative. Like, you know, people, I tell people all the time, this might sound blasphemous to some hip hop heads, but I like it was written a lot better than Illmatic when I listened to it, you know, more than, you know, more extensive. You know what I'm saying? Like Illmatic is a perfect masterpiece for that time period, but it exuded what it outlasted what it came out to be. It came from 1994. Today you can still pop that album and listen to it. And I feel the same way about It Was Written. And I feel the same way about a lot of other people's projects, man. Like they're expressing different things in their lives. You know what I'm saying? And that's the same way I feel about my stuff.
Yeah. So, and I know I've read some stuff about your third album, Bon Appetit, like, you know, that, you know, that is one of your favorite projects that you've ever created. Like, I think I even read someone quoted you as saying that was your blueprint. Like when we talk about Hove and his album, and actually, you know, it's funny that Hove is actually on the album on a bonus track. But you know, tell us why you love Bon Appetit. Is that your favorite project you created, or you love them all the same?
I just felt like I found my pocket lyrically, my comfortability, and actually the Hove record was meant for Jewels. It just didn't make it. So that's why it's a ghost track on Bon Appetit, but he definitely registered the song. You know what I'm saying? But it just felt like I was in my pocket. I started to find my pocket, my comfortability as far as a writer. And, you know, a lot of people wasn't feeling it at first. You know, today people saying, I get it now. Oh, and I'm like, cool, you know. You ain't gonna like everything, you know, people put out. You know, I heard people say, yo, the second Wu album. I'm like, what? Like, Y'all serious? Y'all
Yeah,
don't
the
like
second
the
Wu album
album?
is bananas. It's
Yeah,
bananas.
like
Yeah,
come on, man. But it takes things to grow on people sometimes, because like I said, um, Word Life to me was a more jazzy type of album. Jewels was, gearing towards a little more, what Preem and Guru was doing, but at the same time, it was something me and Buck created,
yeah,
as far as the backdrop. And everybody followed the backdrop that we laid out. And then Bon Appetit was just a soulful record to me. I don't care if you didn't like me talking about money or cars or whatever the case was. It was just a different facet of my life. And like I said, some people just now coming around and saying, yo, we get it now. I understand. It's like, well, whether you understand or not, it's still one of my favorite albums.
yeah. It goes back to what you said earlier. It's that slow burn. It takes a little while for people to kind of catch on, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'll tell you
Yeah.
the funny thing about that album is like I didn't know it existed for years after it came out. Like I was like used record shopping one day
Mm-hmm.
I finally had gone from CDs to or from tapes to CDs and I'm like flipping through and then like I used to go to the hip hop section and flip every letter from A to Z
Mm-hmm.
and just see what I find. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
wait, what is this? What album is this? And
Yeah, that was the third album.
it's
Yeah.
Bon Appetit. And I probably was like 2 years after it came out, I found it. And I
Right.
remember the first two albums. So Canada's a funny thing when it comes to buying an album like early, because we used to have this store, you probably heard of it, it's called Play the Record, little tiny record store on Yonge
Mm-hmm.
Street. And they would get stuff early and they literally would drive to the US, buy it, bring it back here and sell it, but like would have to
Right.
sell it at some big import prices because you couldn't wait for to get it from the distributor. So I remember Word Life, bought it there, spent $30 to buy this album, but I bought it
Right.
anyways. And then
Right.
same thing with Jewels. It's like, do I wait? It'll come out in 6 weeks, but then it was the risk that it sold out. You never could find it.
Right.
So I just said, forget it. Just I'm buying it. But this,
But we
I
did
didn't.
this. We did this same
Same
thing
thing.
though in Queens. Like we would go
Yeah.
to a spot called Hot Wax, and you know, we knew the guy who actually Mr. Walt used to work for Music Factory, so he
Oh,
would get
okay.
stuff in early as well. And we would get albums. We would pay $30, $40 for an album, even though it was coming out next week. But just that, yo, man, just the music game is different now.
Yeah.
I miss it, but things change. But just to go pick up an album, you know, just meant a whole it just meant something different. Today is, the streaming and all that. That's cool. But, to pick up a physical copy of wax or CD or tape, to look at the credits, to look at the artwork, to look at who produced on it, to look at who designed the tape. Like that's
It-
that's a whole nother thing in itself. And
People will
even to
never
get it
understand.
early,
Yeah,
they
people
won't
never
understand
they
that.
don't understand. Like you'd have to go and see. Like I was actually went back and did one of my old things when I was looking at some of your albums today is I had to go and look at who you gave shout outs to. Like that was a big
Exactly.
thing. Who were
That was a
you
big deal.
who were you cool with? That was
Who
a
were you
big
cool
deal.
with? Who
Yeah.
you affiliated with
Yeah.
was dope. You know what I'm saying? And it's just different now, man. But I still do the same blueprint, so to speak, when it comes to doing artwork and album cover stuff, and not more or less my face on album covers. I never really did that too much, but I always wanted something uh for people to look at and like, damn, what is this? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because that's how I looked at albums when I was young. I would pick up album covers, 70s album covers, 80s album covers, and like, damn, this record must be dope the way the artwork looks. You know what I'm saying? And some people picked my album up like that. It was people in Oregon years back that didn't know who the hell I was. And it was like, yo, this is true story. 2005 Hyrule tour. and they was like, "Yo, man, you incredible," and I was like, "Thanks." Like,
Yeah. I've been out.
fifth
I've had an
album.
album for, yeah, I've been out for 11 years.
Yeah, like this
Yeah.
is my fifth album, and it's cool you just discovering me. I'm not even mad about that.
Yeah.
Tell a friend.
Yeah, exactly. So you talk about, we were talking about the album covers and shout outs. So I don't think we could have any conversation hip hop wise if we didn't talk about, your affiliation with DITC, and you're part of the
Mm,
crew. And,
mm,
I've heard some of the, loose stories that, it was Diamond D and Show. They went to school together. I don't know if Finesse went to school with them too, but you and Big L kind of came in later on, but maybe you could share
yeah,
us what the dynamic of how it all went down.
I mean, basically, Diamond, Show, Finesse, and Fat Joe grew up together in Forest Projects. Buck was from the other side, Webster Avenue, and AG, I believe, was from Patterson Projects. KRS made that famous Patterson and Millbrook Projects, Casanova all over. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I met Ness on the tour. So Ness, to me, I know I'll always throw him under the bus for this, but to me, he was the glue. Finesse, Premier, to me is a official DITC member. Kid Capri is an official DITC member. And these guys were around when Finesse did his first album. Diamond Premier Show did his first album, Funky Technician. And I believe Finesse introduced Show and AG. Hence, later on, after meeting Buck on the Source tour, that's how I connected with Finesse and Buck. In turn, it was nothing that was planned out. It was just organic meetings, man. And nobody told anybody else, yo, you down with the crew now. It was just something that happened. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, like I said, Finesse, Fat Joe, Showbiz, and Diamond grew up in Forest Projects. So they knew each other already. L came from Harlem. L, I believe, sent his homeboy over to Finesse in a store called Rockin' Wheels and told him, yo, he want to get busy for him. And Ness sent his friend back or his homie back and told him, here's my manager's number. L sent his man back and told him, yo, um, if he don't like me, he'll never bother me. I'll never bother him again, but he's definitely gonna film me. And Ness took him in the back of the store. They had turntables and a mic. And I believe maybe a week or a month later, he was on a joint called the Yes You May remix. And that was his introduction to DITC.
Mhm. Ain't that something? So, I know it's still very sad that that Big Al is not with us anymore, and we never really
Pause.
got to see the call it the full potential. Like, I know we talk a lot about MCs, and I've done an episode on just how many people are not with us, but like you
Right.
never saw them. From Biggie to Guru to
Yeah.
Fife Dog. Like the list is scary how long. And now you see, like, DMX and Black Rob and
Rob.
all these
Yeah.
other guys that are
Shock
gone.
G
So
just passed on.
yeah,
Like,
that just happened, right? So it's
yeah,
totally
man.
crazy that
Yeah, yeah.
what was it like, even you think of the track Dangerous that you guys came up with, and that's one of your most played songs on Apple Music, and I love it because I love both you guys as MCs.
Right.
So how did you, I know you guys are crew, but how what was the writing process, of how that kind of song, you just kind of got busy in the booth and that's it, or was there more to it?
Nah, it was basically me and L was the youngest, so I believe we clicked up more. You know what I'm saying? And I believe I asked him, yo, I got an idea for a record, and I told him to come in the studio, and I basically try to pitch the Park Jam. That's a Park Jam record, actually.
Yeah.
That was famous in Park Jams, and MC Shan rocked it first though. You know what I'm saying? He did a record called Down by Law, him and Marley. And, you know, I just wanted to do the record over. Anyway, L came in. I kicked around a few lines. He kicked around a few lines. He basically went in, did his part. I did my part. We was like, cool. He was like, yo, I got another session to go to. I'm out. I'm going to Queens. I'm like, all right, be back in tomorrow. Let's finish it. And I cut him a check as well, you know. You know what I'm saying? So he definitely was finishing the record up the next day. But yo, it was just a natural, it was something natural for me and him to do together. And, you know, people don't know this, but, you know, we did a record called Get Yours for the Black Mass soundtrack. That was actually a record, the only record we recorded for an album we was doing together, me, him, and Showbiz.
Wow.
And you know, that was the only record we recorded together. And, you know, it's a lot of things that people won't get to see the light of day on. You know what I'm saying? And that definitely always sticks in my mind. It's like a thorn in my backside, you know, thinking about what kind of album would it came out of me and L doing a full length together, like
you did with Oasis, like with
with
AG, right?
AG. Yeah, like, you know, that's why we did that. You know what I'm saying? You know, at some point, me and he came up with the idea for Weed and Drinks on Bon Appetit. And we looked at each other and we was like, yo, we like, this is crazy. And we waited a few years, but we knew we had a connection as well. Like, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, that happened. But me and L was working on a project. You know, Show had paid us already, and, you know, then he got murdered.
Yeah. Yeah. So unfortunate. So
Yeah.
just to again to, you know, talk about some amazing stuff that you've done. You've shared so much, but I think the whole, so my listeners know the whole premise of why I reached out is because I put Crooklyn Dodgers 2 in the deck one day, and it was like I need to try and reach out and talk to, you know, some of the guys that made this song, because
Right.
we know that Kirkland Dodgers, the first one, was like just an incredible feel, and then to think that they did another song, but you know how that sometimes you do a remix and it doesn't do it any justice.
Yeah.
This is one of these songs, like a different producer with 3 different MCs, and I love the song just as much. There's remnants of the first song, and it feels so different. So maybe you can share how, you know, I know it was for the Clocker soundtrack, and those are the days that used to buy a whole soundtrack just to get
one record,
for one track. Like, so people bought, I remember I bought Crooklyn, and it's I learned to appreciate all the other amazing songs that were on it, but I bought it for Crooklyn Dodgers. So maybe share with us.
Yo, that was Preem. That was Preem. Preem.
Okay.
I personally, I was like, Return of the Crooklyn Dodgers. Nah, like ain't no topping that. Like, you know, Q-Tip produced it. You got Ed, Special Ed, Master Ace, and Buckshot on there. Like, and what Tip did to me, you know, how can I say this? He made it it wasn't just an underground record. You know, he made the record according to, this is when people made soundtrack records according to what the soundtrack of the movie felt like.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They made soundtracks according to what the movie felt like. So, you know, Q-Tip and Buckshot and all of them sat and seen the movie and wrote that record. You know what I'm saying? And we had the same privilege of doing that. You know what I'm saying? But to me, I was like, if we can't top that, man, it's no way we should call it Return of the Crooklyn Dodger. Like, that'd be a disrespect to it if we can't match it. But to me, that record was more of it was a bigger record. It just was a bigger record on radio. It was charting Billboard heavy on R&B charts. Not to mention, you know, Spike Lee shot the video for theirs as well. You know what I'm saying? And he shot our video. And it was just a bigger record to me. So fast forward, when we go in the studio and Preem plays the joints, because Preem never gave you a pre-recording of what he was going to do. He did everything on the spot. You know, he had something. Chubb came in. Chubb knocked his verse out real fast. Me and Rue looked at each other. We cursed. Oh, and we was like, yo, Preem, we coming back in tomorrow. Preem, we got mad a little bit. Said, no. Y'all gotta finish this. Yo, man, we gotta turn this in. And me and Rue was like, well, we ain't got nothing for it today. Like, Chubb just came in and bodied it. You know what I'm saying? Yo, y'all good? Yeah, word, peace. And he was out. You know what I'm saying? And in hindsight, though, I had the first joint in mind. You know what I'm saying? Not sound wise, but just the three players, what Q-Tip did, and I definitely know it was going to be the opposite because of the track. You know what I'm saying? It was more grittier. It was more gritty for the movie clockers. You know, it was just something different. You know what I'm saying? And I just felt good about it. You know what I mean? And we all felt good about it. And you know, how many years later, I can't even.
Yeah. Well,
Damn,
we
that's
still all
what.
feel good about it. The real heads feel good about it still. So
Yeah, like I believe we we only performed the record on stage all together once. You know what I'm saying? In Prospect Parks, I believe, and it was crazy. I felt magnetic when I seen Ace, Ed, and Buckshot, and then you know them coming off the stage to introduce us to come on and do our version. It was bananas. It was bananas. And then we all came on together, and you know, it was just a monumental night for me.
yeah, there'll never be hip hop days like that, but that's again special times.
Yeah, man.
So again, really appreciate your time. You know, I just want to ask you kind of a couple loose questions just to kind of wrap up.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I know you talked about Slick Rick and some of your, you know, your early upbringing. So who are some of your, you know, MCs that you grew up on that are your absolute favorites over time outside yourself?
Man, LL's the GOAT, man. LL is just something special. You know what I'm saying? Um, I don't even put him in no top 10, top 5. He's just he opened a whole different floodgate for dudes. So did Slick Rick. Slick Rick, contrary to how I sound, you know, us coming from the school of Rakim and Kane and them, Rick is my muse. Like, this is what people don't, they like, word. I'm like, yeah, like storytelling on my albums. I don't sound like him, but you know, he taught me how to uh write a book report, so to speak, when you make music and write songs and you know create a visual. And yo, I mean, Great Adventures of Slick Rick came out in 1988. You pop that album in today, it's just a timeless piece of work. I don't even consider it a hip hop record no more. It's just a incredible, great album. You know what I'm saying? Like, it has no title. And, you know, there's very few albums like that in hip hop I can talk about like that. I believe LL did it. I believe Rick did it. Um, KRS did it. Chuck D and them, PE did it. Um, of course, NWA did it. They changed probably the face of music.
Yeah,
You
no
know what I'm
doubt about
saying?
that.
You know, and the list goes on and on. But for me, you know, Slick Rick, uh, KRS, Rakim, Kane, um, LL, G Rap, oh man, the list goes on, man. I
That's
can't
hip
even
hop.
name.
That's hip hop history right there. That is
Yeah,
the
man.
if you probably take all the MCs that were influential in the 90s, you probably are
Yeah.
pulling five guys out of that group and they influenced everybody.
A whole
Yeah.
nation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you know, and like I said, the way I feel about my era though, I feel like we outdid that class. You know what I'm saying? Like
Well, that
it's
you
just
guys are my class. You, Nas, Biggie, Jay-Z, you know, Buckshot,
Redman,
Redman,
Method Man.
Redman, Raekwon.
Yo,
Like
it's
you guys are you guys are my
yeah,
joint.
yeah, Corrupt. All these other cats, Raz Cash, like, I believe what Ryan them started, we elevated.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I say that with all respect. But I just feel like that's why hearing who's the best from my era, nah, it's just too many people. Tretch, like you got too many people. Eminem, you got too many people to say one person is the best MC of all time. You know what I'm saying? Like, um, at least from my era anyway, it's just too many cats that had their moments, and everybody can argue who's the best because it was a lot of dudes who really,
Yeah.
really, really got
Yeah.
busy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel you on that. So if you, I know you've mentioned before in other interviews you've done that you don't listen to a lot of newer artists. You know, there are some guys like Griselda that kind of
Mm,
you do respect, but you know,
mm.
more so than who you listen to, you know, is there, if you were to give, you know, your, you know, an MC that's been out for 20 some odd years, almost, you're literally almost at 30 years now as an MC. What would be some of the words of advice you'd give to someone, you know, trying to do it the boom bap way, but you know, how would you give them some advice?
I mean, doing it anyway, man. Today, boom bap, whatever you want to call it, like it's like KRS said, you got to have style and learn to be original, man. Like you want to stick out. You don't want to sound like everybody else. And you know, my go-to right now is Rashid Chappelle.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like guys like him, they pen enthusiasts. That's what I consider them. You just have to find your way, man. This it's hip hop is like a beacon, man. You have to figure out where the beacon is guiding you, but you have to learn to do it on your own terms. You can't. I don't. I can't respect somebody else sounding like
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
or me imitating someone else, or it takes it takes the voice, it takes style, it takes you ain't got to be so lyrical. It just has to have you have to have something.
Yeah. Something
You
different.
have to
Something
exude
different.
something different, man. That's what makes Redman, Tretch, uh, Method Man, RZA, Raekwon, Snoop Dogg, Corrupt. That everybody I'm naming is
All
not
different.
one sound alike. And I'm just naming, something off the top that common people know. But yo, Razzcast, none of us sound alike.
Yeah.
None of us.
Yeah.
So you have to have style and learn to be original, man. Like I'd rather quote KRS than to quote somebody that sound just like him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I definitely hear you on that. So yeah, as we wrap up, and again, I just want to say thank you so much
Mm.
for your time, for
Yeah,
sharing
yeah,
stories. I think we could talk hours about some of these stories that you have, but you know,
yeah.
I so respect you as an artist. You know, just
Thank you.
your lyricism, but again, as you kind of wrapping up, it's where I kind of what is like your originality and being truly authentic in how you do it. Like, you know, I think you've mentioned before that, you know, you didn't do all these crazy things and all these crimes that some people did, but you know,
Mm-mm.
you pocket, you know where your place is, and that's why I think so many people gravitate you. And it takes a little time to understand this is who OC is and what you're all about. So
Exactly.
So amazing to talk to you and for you to share your stories. Again, for
Appreciate it,
my
man.
listeners are going to go through the roof to hear you talk and share your stories. So again, I really appreciate your time. I think you're just incredible artist. I hope you decide, despite I'm not going to say how old you are because your birthday is coming
Oh,
up though.
nah, I'll be
Um,
50 in a couple
okay,
of weeks. I'm
okay,
all
all
good with
right,
that.
all right. I didn't.
That's a beautiful thing,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Well,
Yeah, word.
after we kind of
Yeah.
talked about how many MCs are not gone, it's amazing that you're approaching 50 and you
That's a
got,
blessing, man.
yeah,
That's a listen. One of my mentor, Pharaoh, was older than me.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
true that,
And dude done transcended what we call lyricism. Like he's something, he's something else.
yeah,
And dude still look good. He still does things 200%. And this age thing in hip hop is that's another topic we
yeah,
probably have to talk about another time. Like,
yeah,
because people just it's super ridiculous with this whole ageism. And
yeah,
I've seen Chuck D recent, in the past couple of years, him and Be Real sell out what 100,000 people.
yeah. We need that. We need them. They need to be like our Grateful Dead or our U2. Like it doesn't matter how old they are. Like you should
Yeah,
be getting the flowers and the respect and all these
yeah,
types of things. Like
yeah,
that's become a term now in hip hop. It's like, let's appreciate these people and tell them that you love them and you tell them that you
exactly,
respect them. So this is why you're
exactly.
here. This is why you're here.
Yeah,
I am a monster fan along with a lot of my friends, and since I
thank you,
started
man.
this podcast, I had to have you on
Yeah,
and it's called Shooting Your Shot. And I didn't know if you would even
yeah.
read it, but you read it and you responded, and here you are. And again, OC,
Nah, I'm here, man.
so
It's
appreciate
funny
you.
you said that, man. I ain't gonna hold you up, but I said Cypress Hills is the Grateful Dead of hip hop. I said Naughty by Nature's Earth, Wind and Fire. Like, yo, this is who we are. Like,
Yeah,
like I said, I've seen, Chuck D and Be Real group sell out over 100,000 plus, like play to a crowd and they know all this stuff. Like the ageism and all that. I don't even pay attention to that.
all right. Thank you again so much for being on. We'll definitely keep in touch, but much appreciated, and peace for now. All right,
No doubt. My man.
all right.